Why, hello there. Well, it's time to talk about why Gavin Newsom's plan to redistrict California is both morally and legally wrong. So Gavin Newsom wants to redistrict. The reason he wants to redistrict is because Texas, their state legislature, wants to redistrict as well. Gavin Newsom, however, faces some constitutional obstacles that Texas does not have. For example, the California state constitution mandates that there be a redistricting that happens via independent state commission once every 10 years with the census. So that was last done in 2020. You may have noticed it is not 2030, it is in fact 2025. And so you're not supposed to be doing things like redistricting between the censuses. Not only that, what Gavin Newsom has now proposed is that instead of an independent state body doing the redistricting, instead of that, he's going to put forward a referendum on a specific redistricting plan on November 4th. And the people of California essentially have to make a change to the state constitution and override it just for now. And then the idea will be that in 2030, they'll go back to the independent state districting plan that goes through an independent council. Now, what's weird about that, there are a bunch of things that are weird about this. One, the Constitution of the United States typically allows state legislatures to redraw their congressional districts. It's only California and a few other states that have decided to have some sort of independent commission do that work. Well, if the independent commission can just be overruled by the state legislature at any time, what is the point of the independent commission? The bigger problem in California is that the independent state commission isn't actually particularly independent. It turns out the independent state commission is staffed by, wait for it, a bunch of Democrats. So that, of course, is not a gigantic shock. It turns out that one of those Democrats with the independent state commission actually spoke at the release of Gavin Newsom's plan. The other question for Gavin Newsom is exactly how many seats he can actually redistrict. Well, there are 52 congressional seats in California. 43 of them are Democrat, only 9 are Republican, which means that approximately 80% of all of the congressional seats in California are already Democrat. How much more can he redistrict, and can that be upheld by a court? Because remember, a court actually is going to end up looking over all this. Someone will sue, and then they will determine whether those voters are actually being fairly represented by the districts that are currently being drawn. So this is a big problem for Gavin Newsom. Let's be real about this. Gavin Newsom doesn't care about any of those. Gavin Newsom wants to run for president in 2028. That's the whole thing. He just wants to pose himself as the alternative to Donald Trump. It's why he said in his big presser that Donald Trump is going to run for president in 2028. Because if Donald Trump isn't going to run for president in 2028, then who is Gavin Newsom fighting? Who is the dragon he is slaying? You know, this is just the latest attempt by Gavin Newsom to try and achieve some form of actual importance leading up to the 2028 election. He's tried this before. You'll recall that he said he was going to lead a resistance against ICE in California, going and actually doing their job by enforcing the law with regard to illegal immigration. You'll recall that he suggested that President Trump was intervening somehow falsely or wrongly with regard to fire policy in the state of California. Only he, Gavin Newsom, could properly do fire policy in the state of California. Is the continued divide between President Trump and the Federal Reserve putting us behind the curve again? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time, or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? What does that mean for your savings? I don't know about you, but I diversify with gold through Birch Gold Group. I do it for peace of mind, knowing if the bottom were to fall out, I have something tangible that I can actually depend on. And Birch Gold makes it really, really easy for you to diversify into gold as well. If you have an IRA or old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or you can just buy some gold and keep it in your safe. Just a few weeks ago, actually, I have re-upped. I called up my friends at Birch Gold. I asked some questions, got all my answered, and now that gold is sitting in my safe. So, first thing to do, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text the word BEN to the number 989898. Again, text BEN to 989898. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. That way, if the Fed can't stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead for yourself. Again, gold has historically been a very solid investment. See this chart, for example, of the value of the U.S. dollar versus the value of gold. Well, you can see as one went down, the other went pretty strongly up. So if you have a lot of faith in the future of the American dollar, well, okay, good for you. But if you want to diversify, because you're a little worried, you might want to text my friends over at Birch Gold. Text Ben at 989898. Gavin Newsom, all he wants at this point is headlines. That's the thing that he wants more than literally anything else in life. It's why, again, he literally said that a joke, somebody sent him a Trump 2028 hat, that joke, he said, was actually a reflection of reality. Donald Trump is going to try a fascistic takeover of the entire country because Texas is going to redistrict kind of slightly. Texas is supposed to pick up somewhere between 3 and 5 seats in Congress. Now, again, the reason Texas is doing a lot of this stuff, the reason a lot of Republican states are looking at redistricting right now is because the 2020 census was done wrongly and poorly. It actually over-allocated congressional seats to Democratic states. not just because, as President Trump has suggested, people count illegal immigrants in the actual census, and then they use that for purposes of allocating congressional representation, which is really controversial. Trump is trying to redo the census. He's trying to fix that. He's trying to suggest that the census should only count naturalized persons, people who are citizens and members of their family. It shouldn't count people who are subject to the jurisdiction of another country, illegal immigrants. But even you put that aside, they just did the count wrong. You see, census officers, they go out, they canvass the neighborhood. Were you interviewed by a person from the census in 2020? I was not. I was counted, presumably, as a citizen of California at that time. I then moved over to Florida, but nobody really talked to me. So it's not that they get every single person. They sort of do a sampling, and then they use that sample and extrapolate from it to come up with what they think are the population numbers in every particular district and in every particular state. The problem is they actually did it wrong. So if you go back to 2021, it was openly acknowledged by the Commerce Department that if they had properly counted everybody in the various states, then electoral votes would have gone away from California, would have gone away from New York, would have gone away from Illinois, and would have gone to Arizona, Texas, Florida. Right? That's where those votes would have moved. And so what you're seeing right now is a corrective attempt with regard to congressional seating and representation. Now, let's be real about this. Is it political by Republicans to try and do that? Of course. But redistricting is always political. There's a reason that the state of Massachusetts has 9 Democratic seats out of 9 congressional seats. Right? There are not 0 Republicans in the state of Massachusetts. And yes, a Republican governor signed that into law, but that doesn't change the fact that the congressional map is not representative of the general population of the state. In fact, there are very few states where the representative population politically is actually even with the congressional representation. That's actually quite rare. Now, there might be better and worse ways of doing all of this, but the attempt by Newsom to claim, number 1, that the country is at stake if Texas redistricts, 2, that he has the unilateral power to do this, 3, that the citizens of California are going to go along with it, and 4, that it really is just about justice and not about him grandstanding politically, that is really, really silly. And again, Gavin Newsom is now operating in the realm of the silly. If you check his tweets lately, it's all capital letter tweets, multiple exclamation points. The goal of Gavin Newsom is to troll President Trump. And this, I think, may be the unique ability of President Trump politically. No matter what he does, he can get Democrats to take the other side. So if he does something with redistricting, Democrats will take the other side. If he says crime is bad, they will decide that actually crime is good and you can't call the National Guard out to help with crime in Washington, D.C. If he says illegal immigration is bad and he's going to activate ICE, Gavin Newsom will yell at him. Alex Padilla, the senator from California, will basically threaten to fight him and will actually get up in the face of Kristi Noem of the Department of Homeland Security. So again, the Democratic Party is in the middle of a grandstanding moment. Gavin Newsom has a lot of grandstanders to compete with, people who are performatively angry, who are yelling. He's got Cory Booker from New Jersey yelling into the wind about things. He's got Hakeem Jeffries yelling into the wind about things. He's got J.B. Pritzker yelling into the wind about things. Gavin Newsom has to yell the loudest. It is the thing that matters most to him in life. So will he be able to redistrict? Maybe. I mean, people of California have voted for some pretty dumb things on the ballot in the past. Will that be upheld by a court? Questionable in terms of the actual districts that he is attempting to draw. And in the end, is it just as political what Gavin Newsom is doing as anything Republicans are doing? Yes, plus he wants to run in 2028.